Hi there, I'm Justin Pritchard. This is the new Hyundai Sonata, and in this video, I want to focus specifically on how its interior is a tech lover's dream and show you a few features of this relatively affordable sedan that you won't even find in a six-figure luxury car. It's those six-figure luxury cars, by the way, that tend to launch the most high-tech stuff we wind up finding in mainstream vehicles a few years later. So to put that another way, those pricey machines are a sort of rolling gene pool of future technologies from which the mainstream will eventually draw. Usually I see features like these for the first time in a six-figure Lexus or BMW, before they wind up down here under $40,000. So let's take a closer look at the car, and then I'll be showing you remote-controlled parking and a very slick camera lane change aid that I'm seeing for the first time not in a flagship sedan for big dollar shot callers, but rather in this reasonably priced Hyundai Sonata. So this one's the ultimate, the top of the line full jam Sonata that's as loaded as she goes, and the one on your screen comes in at about 38,500 Canadian dollars, and for that money it's probably the car you're after if you want the most high-tech and modern and cutting-edge looking family sedan on the road today, at least on this side of affordability. And you can see the sort of high-tech approach this thing takes by just opening the door and peeking inside. And to me, the impressive part is how fresh and modern everything in here looks, right down to the little switches and controls, and the way they've used most of the best materials you'll find for the money right now. And this instrument cluster and central command screen are bang on as well. Great graphics, everything beautifully responsive and animated, and if you're a bit of a gadget geek like me, you are going to love what's happening here. You also get a head-up display, and the graphics on that are crisp and look high-end as well. If you're someone who's used to plenty of screen time on your devices throughout the day, and I know that I am, you're losing virtually none of the quality getting in here behind the wheel. And if you're on the same wavelength as me as a bit of a tech fiend, you'll love these two features that I'm about to show you even more. So first is blind view monitor, literally a camera feed that activates to show you a wide angle image down the side of your car and behind it whenever you signal. This is so slick. Not only does it have better graphics than the comparable system you'll find from Honda, the stream appears right in the instrument cluster and not the central display screen, which is smarter. And beyond that, it works for both directions when you signal, where the Honda only works on the right-hand side. So this is really slick, and my favorite thing about it was how it adds another layer of confidence as you're maneuvering in heavier traffic. You check your blind spot and then your mirror and do a final check here, and if you manage to sideswipe anything, well, go buy a lottery ticket. Very cool bit of tech to be sure, but here's the real showpiece, Smart Park. In simple terms, you can remote control your car from the outside using the key fob to pull it into or out of a tighter parking space, or maybe move the car in your driveway without actually getting into the car. If you are in the car, you can press this button, get out, and complete the parking maneuver while you watch from the outside. In Smart Park, the Sonata goes very slowly, can only move about a car length or so, and all the while the radar sensors powering all of its safety equipment make sure it doesn't hit anything. If you need to emergency stop for some reason, you just release the button. Logical and simple. You can even remote start the car on a cold morning and use the system to pull it in or out if you need to. There's no need to get into the car first and turn it on. I first saw this technology in a BMW a few years back, but when I picked that car up, I forgot to grab the special key that you need to work the parking system, so I was never able to try it out. Now that was a $90,000 car, by the way, and here, for under $40,000, you've got the same sort of tech, no special key required. Now, as I've said for years, those sort of high-end cars tend to launch tech like this that one day trickles down into the cars that you and I can afford, making them even more high-tech and appealing than ever. So take a quick look at some driving impressions based on just a few of the things that have stood out for me over the past couple of days driving this new Sonata, and we'll start with ride quality and comfort. You could say this is just like a Honda Accord Sport or maybe a Mazda 6, where it's soft around the edges, a little bit firmer in the middle, and the result there gives you something that's generally comfortable to drive, but also unbothered if you feel like dialing up the speed.
and having a little bit of fun with it. And to put that another way, it gives you handling that's tidy and athletic and eager, but without sort of bashing your spine to kingdom come. Now that said, you do have smoother riding options in this universe, especially on rougher roads, rougher secondary roads around town. Maybe I'd say Chevrolet Malibu and Subaru Legacy sort of stand out the most there. Next up, the drive mode selector, and that's this little toggle switch down here, animates your selection into that digital instrument cluster. A lot of cars have a sport mode that makes the steering a little bit heavier, makes the throttle a little bit more sensitive. To me, in the Sonata, the big thing is in sport mode, it's a big difference. The steering gets much heavier, the throttle gets much more sensitive, and the interesting thing is a lot of cars in sport mode give you sort of an on-center notch, if you will, in the steering. So imagine that you've got to use a bit of muscle power to sort of break the steering wheel away from that center notch in order to dial in a steering input. It makes you feel like you're sort of muscling your way through the steering system in the car. And going about 105 on the highway right now, and I am in sport mode, that notch effect is not there. And what that means, cleverly I think, is that I can still adjust the position of the car within its lane using just little inputs on the wheel. But as soon as I start dialing in a bigger input, an off-ramp, maybe a winding back road or something, then I've really got to use some muscle power, and it feels heavy. And the first thing that comes to mind with steering that's this heavy and a little bit quicker is, of course, a go-kart. And so the difference between the drive modes in terms of steering feel is pretty significant, and I think entertaining enough that you'll want to use it fairly often. And if you're a bit of a gadget geek like me, this might just be the best machine for you. Until next time, my name is Justin Pritchard. Take care and drive safe.